That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Turks and Caicos is yours truly, Andy Missick, the host of Wassup Turks and Caicos, a show made for the youth, hosted by the youth, where I interview some of the most influential youth in the TCI as we dive into a variety of different topics.
For me, and that's why I say I won't come back no time soon, because I want to make a name for myself outside of Turks and Caicos first before I come back, because I already have a name here.
I've always just had a passion for it, man. Like I couldn't even tell you where it came from. I think maybe I just seen it on TV one time, and from then it was just going. Like I always loved football, and I always knew I wanted to play quarterbacks.
With the sole purpose of youth empowerment. Don't meet me there, beat me there. Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. on the best radio station in the TCI, RTC. Good morning, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to another episode of What's Up with yours truly, Andy Missick, the host. A show made for the youth, hosted by the youth. Today I have a great guest, Mr. Zhavargo Jolly.
Hey.
So, Mr. Jolly, you're a man who wear many hats. So, can you introduce yourself for those listening?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. What's up? Thank you for inviting me. As you said, my name is Zhavargo Jolly. Yeah, definitely several hats. I feel like I've lived so many lives up until this point. You and I have had several discussions about like my transition into my current role as an entrepreneur and a father, but I've been everything. I'll always be someone's son, but I've been a young man, a student. I've been a young politician. I've been a civil servant. I've been a Marine in the TCI regiment. Like, there are just so many opportunities that God has given me throughout my life to help mold me into the person I am today. But most importantly, the role that, other than being a father and, just a self-employed, free individual, I think the role that I relish most now is being a middle child, as I like to call it, entering this phase in my life where I'm in a position now where I'm not quite a youth like you, but I'm not quite aged out full OG yet, right? So in that middle child role, I feel like I have the best of both worlds now as a Turks and Caicos Islander. There's still so much for me to learn and achieve, but I'm also in a position where I can share knowledge, information, and any kind of assistance with young Turks and Caicos Islanders like yourself.
So I would say that you're definitely an inspiration to many of us young Turks and Caicos Islanders, like you said, because you've done something that many of us are trying to do. Because this day and age, prices keep going up. Inflation is happening. You were a government worker for many years, and you made the transition into being completely self-employed. So what basically led to you making that step? How was it for you? And I know you was faced with a lot of adversities and, maybe doubts.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you jump and make that push to being a multi-businessman? Like how you...
I appreciate it. That's an excellent question, Andy. If I had to sum it up in one word, I'd definitely say freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, freedom was everything. When I returned from school for my postgrad, and I ran in an election. We won't get into that. That's another question I'm sure you're gonna ask at some point. But after experiencing that and making a decision that I want to serve my country in some capacity, I sought an opportunity to work for the Turks and Caicos Islands government, and that was probably the longest job I've ever had, where I worked for the government in the senior press office for 7 years. Having that kind of financial stability can be very misleading. The bank favors you when it comes to credit, but a lot of the time, if that line of credit that you're offered from the bank by having that stable monthly salary, if it isn't used for income generating opportunities, it really loses value. Now, you can have the opportunity to get assets, for an example, land or a home, but a lot of times if that home is where you reside, it can be viewed as dead money. Now, yeah, you have equity in that, but if you look at our market now, our real estate market, if depending on how volatile the market is, that home can be worth less in the end when you buy it, less at the end when you're done paying for it than when you originally purchase it. And then if you factor in interest, you'd have paid 3 times the original price for that home, and it's worth half of the original price. So, like having personal experience and seeing others experience with having one income and at the same time not having freedom in a schedule, not being able to travel when they feel like, spend time with their family when they feel like, they're basically um, in a position where they've created a life around that one stream of income, that you've lost all leverage. So I always knew I wanted multiple streams of income. I always knew I struggled to answer to authority. I was never good at the being told what to do. That's something I struggled with my entire life. So I always know I wanted that kind of freedom, but most importantly, I wanted financial freedom. I understood that money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a lot of things that make you happy. It can buy you your time back, and a lot of people don't understand how money does equal time. Every time you can afford to pay an individual to do something you would have had to done yourself, you now get that time back. So there's a lot of freedom associated with money, and money is constantly being viewed as something evil or negative. And a lot of people believe this goes back to the old days where we were taught to be ignorant about money and not to pursue money because it would ultimately free us. Economic wealth and good economic practices would ultimately mean the freedom of all Turks and Caicos Islanders in this country. So I knew it was important. I was scared, just like everybody else. Initially, I started with one business, one small business in my garage. As soon as I was done with work, I probably wasn't the best employee at that point because once 4:30 hit, I was home trying to work on my business, my project. I put all my personal savings into it. At that time, I was married with one child. So I usually encourage a lot of people when you start, if you want to start a business, especially as a side hustle, do it before you get married and you have the commitment of a child. I already did. So a lot of times I was juggling being a parent, and I probably was neglecting some responsibilities, but ultimately I saw the long-term reward. So once I started receiving that initial income, and once you get to that point where it starts surpassing your job salary, you start having a little attitude at work. When your boss tell you to do this and do that, you start getting a little chippy because, you start saying, this money you paying me don't match up to the money I'm making on the street. So, once you start getting to that point, and, I was able to use money from the first business to start another business, and I kept looking for opportunities where there were monopolies. So that means even just by launching a small business with minimal investment, a lot of time 5% of the market is up for grabs because a lot of people are just dissatisfied with the service associated with monopoly, because most monopolies don't really care about customer service because where else are you going to go? So that's really where I started to poke holes in different markets. My first business was a rum company that you know of. We talked about it. Monkey Bag Rum. At the time, there was only one other local rum, so I was able to squeeze my head in there. And then I started the water store. There was only one other business making water, doing reverse osmosis. And then I got into a few other things. I think right now I picked up all my business license renewals now, and including the new business that I'm starting. It was 7 in total. So I just want to keep it going, and I would encourage a lot of young people to keep going as well.
So, what are some tips that you would give to individuals who want to become business owners and take the road?
I think one of the first things it's definitely a commitment, just like any other one, is how you would look at entering a relationship or a marriage. You really get out of it what you put into it. It requires so much commitment and sacrifice, and it's also a huge risk. But ultimately the reward is great, and you have to kind of clarify what your goals are, because a lot of business, they'll take time before you can kind of make the income that you can live on, or even splurge or spoil yourself, or maybe even pay yourself. I made so many mistakes when I first got started. I really didn't have like the kind of relationship you and I are working on, like that mentor or mentee, like that OG relationship, where there's someone who could kind of let me know where the potholes are so I can kind of avoid them. And I think a lot of times I would let my pride or even arrogance get in the way, and I would make some risky decisions. And I think it definitely cost me a lot. But I think one of the most important things is understanding the fact that you're gonna take some L's. You're it's a part of the process. You go to college, you spend $70,000 on an education, right? 3 or 4 years. In business and entrepreneurship, sometimes you're lucky and those same lessons you learn won't cost you that much, but sometimes it could cost you $70,000 to learn a lesson. But the most important thing is that you learn from it and that you stay committed. Some businesses you gotta, cut anchor and get out of it because it's clear that it won't be successful. You can't keep pumping your personal income into it. But a lot of businesses fail because they didn't have access to capital. So if you can scale up small with your own savings and grow your business, kind of look for businesses that can operate on small investment and you continue to invest your revenue back into the business. I usually recommend those kind of businesses for your first attempt, because most businesses require a certain amount of capital and we think we can get into it just based on half the money it requires, and most of them fail because you don't have access to capital. And as we know, most Turks and Caicos Islanders, we don't have the luxury a lot of other nationalities have, where we either know somebody with money or someone's willing to give us money, or the bank behaves more favorable towards us.
Mhm. So, Mr. Jolly, something that stands
Sounds
out to
good.
me
Mr.
more than
Jolly sounds good.
something that stands out to me more than anything else is, you are a patriot.
Mhm.
When I mean a patriot, from the first day I met you, hearing you talk, you always talked about country.
Mhm.
You always talk about, and that's one of the reasons we formed this mentorship relationship
Mhm.
between me and you, because you want to push your local people forward.
Mhm.
How important is that to you? Being a patriot is to you. A lot of individuals have a first class citizen mentality, which is okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to feel like
Absolutely.
you're entitled to the best of the best,
Mhm.
but what are you doing to push the country forward, to push the people forward? So how important is being a patriot to you? When did you develop that characteristic within yourself?
Mhm.
And how can we as a people, me, you, and others, help to get others to that level as well?
I love it. God, family, country. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't go wrong in that particular order. Um, I think it's it's in everything you do. Like Turks and Caicos has been so good to me. Like it's impossible to put in words. And I can't remember. I think it was Kyle from Turks and Caicos who said, and he was talking about, when I home, I'm somebody. You know that kind of way. Like, I get on the plane, you travel, you're a tourist, you're a visitor, you soaking up the experiences, but for the most part, you'll tolerate pretty much anything and chop it up to experience. When I'm home, I feel a certain way. My chest out a little bit more. I breathe a little bit deeper. My confidence, just by being in an environment where people know you and you're received warmly. And I always, from a young age, I always wanted to reciprocate that. I love the fact that we live in a culture where if you walk into a room and you don't say good morning, that's a problem. And people be asking you who raised you. Like that's home to me. I'm in a place where people cannot walk past me without greeting me. Like if you're a person that cares about being known or being popular, like there's no better feeling. You walk around the world, people wonder, nobody cares, nobody looks at you. When you home, you can't walk in a grocery store without somebody stopping and saying, "Hey, how are you? Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on?" That's home. And I always wanted to. I always thought that's something that we needed to preserve as a people. And I feel like some with the influx of what comes along with growth, economic growth, and the influx of us becoming now more so a melting pot. I think we've lost a lot of what is originally a part of our culture and a part of our daily practices. But I think we've more so lost pride in nation, and it's something that usually comes along with strong culture and strong history. And we had the Department of Culture on First Edition the other day, and they were talking about how difficult it is in Provo, not so much in the outer islands, to identify and stimulate the local culture and the historical aspect of it, but in Provo, because we're so diverse, we've kind of lost that. So I genuinely believe that national pride, that first class citizen, that I deserve the best, and we expect that not just from the government, but everywhere we go. Like in Turks and Caicos, you can't get away with treating me any kind of way. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We kind of look down on that behavior, they call it arrogance, but that kind of pride is necessary when you're building a nation, when you're building a country, when you're striving towards independence. If you don't have, like, you look at other countries in the Caribbean, and people always talk about Jamaica and the Bahamas, like, you need a large percentage of your local population to have that energy, because when time comes to struggle and you're on your own, you're no longer under the umbrella of that colonial umbrella that, to be honest, at this point doesn't benefit us at all. You need that confidence. You need that national pride, that Turks and Caicos Islands over everything. So I would love to see more national pride, more love and unity amongst our people. But I think more so your age bracket. You and I have this conversation all the time. I am so hard on people that fit in your age bracket, anything 35 and under, because we tag your age bracket with the word youth. But what that really does is kind of put you in the back seat. And it is basically say, not yet. So, one day you'll be older and you could influence the direction and the growth of your country. You can have an impact on the things that take place in your country. But it's just really a tag to keep you away. But there is no point in your life where you'll be more energetic and idealistic and you're more opportune to be in that leadership position. Because once you start to phase out and you start caring more about money and providing for your family and these other things, you become so jaded, everything is black and white. But at your point in life, everything is so colorful, and you think bigger, and you think that Turks and Caicos Island should have drones flying all over the place and solar lights along the street and cleaner streets and you know what I'm saying? So you think we should be hosting international basketball games and football games and these kind of things, while we're just saying keep putting money in tourism because that's where we make our money. We don't want to rock the boat. So people in your age bracket should not only have more of a say, but I would love you guys to be more aggressive. Like when people just tag you as the youth this, the youth that, the next one up, you kind of brush that off and remind them that I vote. You know what I mean? Like I represent not only a part, and it's not just the politicians, but I vote and I spend money. I spend money in the grocery store. I buy gas. I pay for this as everybody else. I am a valuable contributor to this economy, and I make up a large percentage of it. So if we could get individuals like you to recognize your influence, recognize your power, and then to work together to kind of weaponize it, really, because there's power in numbers. So if 30 of you get together, you can call that group whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But your goal is the only thing that matters. So if it's 30 people that get together and say, we want housing, the conversation that you and I constantly have, the fact that people in your age don't have access to owning homes. Like the country completely looks different than it looks 20 years ago. Your generation, it may slip into the generation after you, will be the first generation that actually has to deal with homelessness. Like, do you understand that? In the market we have right now, my generation, we barely missed the cut, right? There wasn't land. You couldn't get the one piece of commercial and the one piece of residential. But you know who did? Our mothers and our fathers. So when times got hard, I could always go back to mommy house. I could always go back to daddy house. I know I would never have to sleep on the street. And if we're blessed, when they pass on, that can be handed down. If you don't have too many children, it can be divided up. there is no more land readily available to be given to you, and you are priced out of the market. There's no way a person your age can afford. There's no job paying you the kind of money to afford $250,000 for 0.5 of an acre. So you're not going to own land. And if people in your generation are renting, and you're renting when you have kids, and your kids go away to school and go to college and come back, and you're still renting, what happens when that landlord throws you out? What happens when you lose your job and you can't afford to pay rent? Like, people don't understand. We will have homeless Turks and Caicos Islanders. There will be no mommy's house to go through where everybody, that nucleus where everybody could live on top of each other under one roof, but at least we have somewhere to lay our head. There will be no one. There are Turks and Caicos Islanders, I'm talking civil servants right now, 30s and 40s, that rent. They don't own a home. Their children are 18, 19, coming back from college. If that landlord decides I'm going Airbnb, you got to be on the streets. That's 2 generations of Turks and Caicos Islanders with nowhere to lay their head. But we turn around and we brag that real estate sales are through the roof, and we killing it making money on stamp duty. But we don't understand Turks and Caicos Islanders aren't benefiting from that opportunity. So you should be angry. People your age should be furious. Every time they get up there and say, oh, we killing stamp duty. What good is stamp duty if it ultimately doesn't benefit Turks and Caicos Islanders? That stamp duty don't mean anything to me. We bragging about AAA plus this and that. Everything we do should be about ultimately benefiting Turks and Caicos Islanders. Every legislation, every private sector, every economic move should be ultimately, like, if you care about your country, the major impact, the basic impact of every decision should benefit Turks and Caicos Islanders. And I'm not seeing it. And that's why I always tell you, you guys need to be angry and aggressive and call people out.
So that's definitely a mouthful and more.
Sorry, get me started.
That's a mouthful and more. I love that. And it's actually a segment of my show that I call Giving Flowers, Giving Roses. And I mean, I gotta say, Mr. Jolly, Mr. Jolly, since I met you through playing basketball on the court. And you was always, like I say, what I admired about you, you was a patriot, you down hard. You talk to the guy with a suit, the same as the janitor. Very, very humble guy. And I always talk to you, and we would communicate with each other within the basketball set, and you would always encourage me. You'd always push me. Not until I see you, coming into the radio station, I realize, hey, man, Jolly is a businessman.
That's
Jolly
somebody.
Listen, it's just so crazy how you got so much going on for you, and like I said, you make the time to talk to the youth, to inspire the youth, to enlighten the youth. Like, where I come from is just a handful of guys like that who make the time and, come there and speak with us. Only time we see them is, with a selection time to go to men. But you not only, just communicate with us, but you open our mind, expand our mind to show us that, we have a voice. And, it's like you said, it's our time now to lead with the, it's a saying that I see a lot. When you're young, you filled with, imagination, you filled with dreams, filled with goals, till the world, put you in a little box and say, hey, this who you're supposed to be. This how you're supposed to act. But imagination is everything, Everything we see is someone's imagination that came into reality. So, I thank you for the great work you're doing with me and, the many other youths. And I soak in everything like a sponge, and not only soak it in, but implement it. And I hope that many others, are sparked by what you just said and what you're about to say in the remainder of the interview.
Appreciate that. You're blushing.
In 2012, you ran.
Here we go.
You ran for election. So how was the experience? And it's a wide window from then to now, and you haven't ran again since then. So how was the experience, and why haven't you given it another shot?
The only thing I run these days is my mouth. Listen, it was it was a necessary experience. Like, I, one day when I write the book, you get the full story. But if I could be as short about, like, so, all right, you and I've had this conversation, so I'm going to give you the synopsis. 2012, right? First election outside of a suspended constitution and interim government. I was about your age, right, as you are right now, full of energy and big ideas and imagination. And there was a huge opportunity there for people with an interest to run. If you look at how elections run now, parties control who the next set of candidates are. And I understand, like, I'm the biggest fan of democracy. I understand why parties are necessary because you want to kind of organize and curate democracy. But here's the thing about parties, they kind of muddy the waters of the electoral process because you no longer become a patriot to your country, you become a patriot to the party. So you're no longer I'm diehard Turks and Caicos Islander. You're I'm diehard this 3-letter acronym or that 3-letter acronym, and you can kind of get lost in the whole process and forget that the goals are to benefit your country. If you're here, you're putting your name on the line. The goal is to benefit your country, to bring something to the table, to put your resume out there or your skill set out there and say, hey, now you've heard me talk. You've heard what I've done. You heard what I want to do. Go vote for me. And parties kind of muddy that up. Parties are like, come join us, register, come to our little conferences, and then you kind of take on an identity that isn't you. So people aren't even voting for Andy, the community activist, the guy who cares about young people anymore. They're voting for a party, and hey, they got a good candidate there. So I was very fortunate in 2012. It was wide open. You had this whole setup where you could be an independent candidate at large. You could be an independent candidate in a district. We were able to form a third party. I was made deputy leader at such a young age. It created a massive opportunity. I participated in national debates with the then deputy leader who went on to be premier, Honorable Charlene Cartwright, good friend of mine, and the deputy leader at the time was a QC who's now a magistrate judge, Honorable his Excellency. I don't know how it works with your judge, but Carlos Simons, also a good friend of mine. So all these people I ended up developing a relationship with, I'm half their age. But we're up on the stage debating each other. So I really got an opportunity to put my skill set on display and kind of put myself on the map. And my home people had known me from moving around Light and Ramona's son, but they didn't know not only how much I cared about my country, but how the kind of direction I wanted to see my country go in. Like just these big ideas and things I thought we deserved, especially coming out of having our constitution suspended. Like I felt like that was the whole process was like the foot of colonialism. Like colonialism can look pretty sometimes. Look at countries like India where they still kind of make it look pretty, and they have their English accents and they kind of represent aristocracy in their communities. But then we saw with the boot, like they talk about the carrot and the stick. We saw what the stick looked like when someone who's never been to your country comes over here and suspends your constitution and tells you everyone here, all 40,000 of us, none of us are fit to lead our own country, which is the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard. Like, how do you tell me we've got people that have gone to colleges and universities all around the world, and you telling us none of us are fit to lead? Anyway, that's long story short. I kind of at that point got a distaste for the election process because I was so young, and I didn't realize, like, I had no political experience. I didn't realize how what that whole political process was about, and I wasn't prepared for it. So when I lost, the loss wasn't the problem. The problem was after losing and being told, if you had ran with this party or if you had ran with that party, I would have voted for you or you would have definitely won. And as a young person, that basically, what you basically said to me is, okay, I think you have everything it takes to be in a position to contribute to your country, to lead, to be a representative, but you have to be under this umbrella. So it ultimately means you don't want me, you want the party. You want whoever is in that position in the party. You would gladly choose someone else in the party over me. So it's not about me, it's not about what I can do. And that kind of left a really bad taste in my mouth. But it worked out very well because I needed more experience. I needed to come out here and grow and start a family and start businesses. But like I think the timing I think the timing, I genuinely think that's when a lot of people should get into politics. I don't think it should be at this stage in my life. Me as an individual, I needed to get that experience because I didn't have any political aspirations before. But if you're a young person at that stage and you've had political aspirations, you understand how this process works, you've been out in communities kind of registering votes and letting people know that this is what you want to do, that's when you start. Like, not now.
So we coming to the end of the show, and I would like you just to leave some encouragement for the youth of the Turks and Caicos in terms of leadership, in terms of coming back home and giving back and being patriots. What would be your inspiration for them in terms of pursuing business?
Absolutely.
What would be your inspiration to young Turks and Caicos Islanders and older as well?
Absolutely. So, yeah, let's break that up because you have to come back home. You have to come back home. That's how you build countries. You go out there, you see what the world has, you see what other countries do and have done to advance, and you bring that home and you mold it with your culture. So you see the high rises, you see the big bridges, you see the statues, you see the clean streets, you see the signs, you see how they've been able to grow, and then you bring that here and you put the conch shell and the flamingo and the cactus on it. That's how you build a country. So don't ever let what you see out there mislead you into thinking that you need to jump right into it. Your responsibility is to experience that and bring a piece of it back, but shape it for us. That's what everywhere. If you're in the UK, if you're in the US, if you're in China, wherever you are, your job is to take a little piece of what they have. Now, we don't necessarily need the culture, but the tools they've used to develop, and you bring that home, and we need to put our little stink on it. Like that. That's how this process works. We send each other away for that very goal. So you have to come back home. That responsibility, if you're gone for 20 years, at some point you have to come back home. We need to see value in your research mission, right? Like that's the most important part. For young people, again, like it's so important to get involved. Like show love for your country. This country gives us so much. When you look at some of the other places, some people have to grow up and have to live their lives. We are so blessed. This is one of the most resilient places in the world. Hurricane seasons go by, and we somehow still manage to when we are damaged, to rebuild so quickly and better than ever. We're a blessed nation. Our economy is blessed. We're a blessed people. Show love for your community. Work together with other young people. I see so many young people out here doing so many good things, but they're trying to do it by themselves. It's like one person here wants to be this, one person. Don't let the name get caught up. The name, I'm telling you, a lot of times when you see groups, when you see, especially like, not to hit on political parties all the time, but a lot of times when you see people bestow certain names and honor on you, it's just to put you in a box. It's to kind of label you. Don't run to labels. Don't run to somebody calling you this or making you that. Like, you have no idea what your limitations are at this point. And so often when we see one set of skills, we want to label you as Andy this guy, Andy the radio host, Andy the this. We have no idea what you're capable of, man. Any bit of creativity or inspiration you have, you go for it. Like, don't let those labels hold you back. But you guys really I would like to see more cohesiveness. Your generation is going to have to work together. You guys are going to have uphill battles that we've never seen. You guys are going to grow up in Turks and Caicos Islands, unlike we've seen. The level of competition that you guys are out here competing with, the advantages they have in terms of access to capital and their ability to network. When they walk into a room with the general manager and the CEO and the CFO, they look like them. They don't look like you. They will be received better. It's science. We're not throwing shade on anyone, but the fact is people respond better to or more welcoming to people who look like them. That's just how it works. So you're going to have to face these kind of uphill situations without the land, without the local bank, without the so many of the opportunities, without the funding, without the capital. So you guys are going to have to work together and pool your resources. A lot of times even pool your money. Like it is so important. But what I would say, and the last thing I want to leave, is to my generation. That's where we come in. We have to help. We can't feel just because we've left that phase in our life where we're making a little bit more money now, we're taking a little bit more trips. Our kids go to the school with some of these private schools and these nicer schools, so we kind of detach from our community and our culture a little bit. We start feeling ourselves. Our car is a little nice, so we forgot where we grew up. We forgot the conditions we grew up in. We forgot we were Andy. I was sitting in your seat making the same salary, wondering, man, I can't do this forever. I need to start a business. So I've been able to walk through some doors. My job is not to close that door behind me. I need to kick that door open, kick the walls down, tear that whole thing down, and make it easier for you to walk through so you can do the same thing for my son. So people my age, every time we walk past one of you all, we need to offer something. Whether it's inspiration, whether it's advice, whether it's money. If you come to me right now and you say, hey, Jolly, man, I'm about to do this thing. What should I do? I need to have an answer for you. If you say, Jolly, man, I want to start this business. Here's my business plan. I need access to capital. The bank running me around. This whole thing is a joke. If I can't find the money to invest in, I need to be able to find someone else. Put you on to someone. Hey, I know this guy just had a lick. This guy over here making some money. He has disposable income. Talk to him. Tell him, Jolly, send you. I'll even write you a reference letter. It's our job to create, to help stimulate you guys in every way. Because, again, what was there for us isn't there for you. And what was there for the generation before me wasn't there for me. Like, I want to be to you what I wish I had when I got started. That's the most important thing. I need to be that OG to you that I wish I had. That guy who would tell me where to go to get money. That guy who would tell me the mistakes not to make. And sometimes we start feeling ourselves too much. Listen, when you see us start making some money, we start feeling ourselves. We don't want to be around certain places and talk like, when Andy come talk to me, man, when Andy will talk to me. I got a time to answer Andy Ford. Andy don't know I make $1 million a year. Andy think I got time to answer my call. But I was Andy. I got to ignore the fact that I was you if I was fortunate enough to be you, you know? So any person my age, anyone who knows me, know this is what I'm constantly saying. We got to put on. Sorry, can't run it on.
Thanks a lot. You heard it, folks. Yours truly, Andy Missick and Zhavargo Jolly with another great episode of Wassup. I'd like to see y'all next week with another great episode.
That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up.